Hello and welcome to my second Paul's Garage film review blog. Thanks for everyone who watched last week and everyone who said nice things. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it's going to get better like I said before. I've been watching some great stuff this week. Got some classics lined up to talk about today. So shall we get the ball rolling? Okay, first up, this is the Blu-ray that's just come out on the Masters Cinema of The Town That Dreaded Sundown. This is one that I've been wanting to watch for a long time. Look at that cover. That was the original poster. How cool is that thing? And the title as well, The Town That Dreaded Sundown. Just ticks all the boxes for me. It's from 1976. It's a proto-slasher, if you like. Based on a true story of some murders that happened in America in the 30s by a killer known as the Phantom. The murders were later known as the Moonlight Murders. And the film follows a cop known as Sparkplug, which I think is a really cool name, who is trying to track down the killer. I really like this. This is very similar feel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Kind of grimy American 70s, quite realistic. And like I say, it's a proto-slasher, definitely. You can even see on the cover the killer there wearing the gunny sack on his head, which Jason wore in part 2 of Friday the 13th. You can also see like the influence on slasher genres, like with the creative kills. There's a great kill in this where the guy kills a girl with a trombone with a knife on the end of the trombone, like that. And yeah, I thought that was pretty creative. I don't know if that was true or artistic license. Really nice grimy film. Not as good as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but really well worth checking out if you're a fan of the slasher genre, because it kind of pointed the way for the genre. Recommended. Okay, next up, it's another midget film. Not as good as last week's For Your Height Only, but still pretty damn good. This one's called The Terror of Tiny Town. It's a western with midgets, Judd Buell's midgets to be precise. It's only a short one, this, but I watched it with a few whiskies last Sunday afternoon, and it's one of those where some of it I thought, did I dream that? That can't have been real. But it's got like some classic scenes. Like in the saloon, there's a little lady midget who sings to all the cowboys about wanting to make love to them and everything, and she sits on all their laps. It's quite disturbing again, but I guess midgets need love too, so I'm not going to hate. It kind of reminded me a bit of the film Freaks, which is a similar type of theme, a similar era as well. Not as weird as Freaks, but pretty damn weird. I couldn't tell if some of the midgets were lady midgets playing cowboys or not. The voices were very high pitched, but it's a nice little oddity and well worth checking out. That's my midget movie of the week. Next up is this little stinker, The Last Horror Movie. Found footage. It's got some pretty grand claims on the cover, likening itself to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer and Man Bites Dog, those classics. But no. Sorry, you're not in the same league. Comes across as really intellectual in a bad way. I don't mind a bit of intellect, but no. This was very preachy. I think the director thought he was above the genre almost. He was. The idea was to point the camera at you, the viewer. You know, why are you watching this? You want me to kill these people, and I can't deal with any of that. I'm just a film fan who likes a little bit of escapism. I wouldn't hurt a fly. He was reaching for the highs of American Psycho, the director. I think he thought he was creating a Patrick Bateman type and the black comedy element of that film. I thought he was trying to do that, but it flopped on all counts as far as I'm concerned. Film like this, it lives and dies by its actors. You know, we're meant to be looking at real life murders. Never once was I convinced by the lead actor. Every eyebrow arch and evil smile just came across as contrived, and just really made my skin crawl, this movie, and not in a good way. I even took offence at the title of this one, The Last Horror Movie. If you're going to call something that, you're going to have to make it pretty damn good. And the horror was just pathetic, really. If you want to see some real authentic type found footage, look no further than Fred Vogel's August Underground trilogy. Those films were so realistic that he would regularly get them taken off him at airports and taken to prison, and the DVDs burned if he was on tour doing conventions or whatever. This would not convince a 5-year-old, really. All the murders are him sneaking up on somebody and hitting him over the back of the head with a hammer. There was no gore in there. And you call yourself The Last Horror Movie. Just get this damn thing out of my garage. I never want to see it again. We're moving into classic territory now with a little thing called Lady Terminator. One of the best taglines on a movie I've ever seen. You can see it there. First she mates, then she terminates. I'll give you a second just to let that one sink in. First she mates, then she terminates. Awesome, awesome thing, this. Very, very strange. Coming out of Indonesia in the 80s. What does it say on the back? Get ready for a wild ride. A sexually rapacious Asian goddess known as the Queen of the South Sea possesses the body of a young female skin diver. It starts years ago with an Asian goddess who's having sex with lots of young men and killing them with a snake that lives in her holiest of holies, really. So exactly like James Cameron's Terminator. I can't talk about this one, it's just too fucked up. Yeah, so years later, the worm snake type thing that lived inside the lady's parts finds its way into a young female skin diver, as it says on the back. I think the big thing that came across in this movie for me was that they wanted to cash in on the Terminator films, but they didn't have any budget to do any robot effects, because she's not actually a robot, she's just possessed by a big worm. She moves like a robot though, very strangely. Yeah, it's got lots of stills from the Terminator, like a bit where she cuts her own eye out, which she doesn't seem to do it for any reason. She just cuts it out, puts it in the sink and then puts it back in again. Very strange. When all is said and done though, this is a really entertaining B-movie, one of the best of its kind, I think. It's up there with those so bad it's good classics like The Room and Vanilla Ice's Cool as Ice for me. Really weird, and 100 million times better than the latest Terminator Genesis, so definitely worth seeking out. Recommended. Right, next up, Cheap Thrills. This is a black horror comedy. It's got Pat Healy and Sarah Paxton in, who were both in The Excellent Innkeepers. Pat Healy plays Craig, an auto mechanic who's lost his job, about to be evicted, goes down to the local bar to drown his sorrows, bumps into one of his old schoolmates he hasn't seen for many years. As the night goes on, they bump into this couple, a sort of wealthy older man and his girlfriend are in the bar celebrating the girl's birthday. They become aware of Craig's financial situation, and it starts off with the guy daring Craig and his mate to do crazy things for money. It starts off quite innocently enough with having to drink a shot, and then having to slap a barmaid's bottom, and it escalates and escalates throughout the film. They end up going back to the guy's house, and all sorts go on. Pinkies get chopped off, dead dogs are eaten, all sorts of good fun stuff. Yeah, really good this. It's intellectual in the right way, unlike the last horror movie. It actually does make you question yourself, and you know, what would you do for money? How far would you go? And it does it in a really clever, intelligent way. A bit similar in theme to one I saw last year, Would You Rather, but better. I thought this one was better, a better script. Definitely worth checking out. Cheap Thrills. Right, next up we're going to be looking at a film by one of the masters of horror cinema, David Cronenberg. This is one I've seen before, but not for a long time actually. And Arrow have just brought out this really cool collector's edition of it. It's Videodrome. But if you're a fan of this movie, you just need to get this. It's really extensive. It's got like DVDs of all his early works and a really big, thick hardback book about this film. It's a masterpiece of the genre, really. What can you say? David Cronenberg. It's about a guy played by James Woods who owns his own TV company, and he wants to start putting more and more extreme things on his network. And he has a guy working for him who has a massive satellite, and he's receiving this transmission called Videodrome, and it appears to be real-life torture sequences. Yeah, it turns out the transmission isn't a TV transmission at all. It's something much more powerful, something that crosses the boundaries from reality into the fantasy world. And James Woods' character gets more and more embroiled into the Videodrome and starts to have waking nightmares where his stomach opens and he puts a gun inside himself, and the effects are just real groundbreaking stuff, and the stuff nightmares are made of, really. Once seen, you'll never forget. Cronenberg was way ahead of his time with this, making statements about reality television. I think he's a genius. All of his work is really thought-provoking and clever. Debbie Harry's in this. Not the greatest actress, but kind of adds to Cronenberg's weird, nightmarish dream world, really. Everyone's kind of plastic in a Cronenberg world. Everyone's a little bit sinister. They're not nice places to visit, but it's an absolute classic, and I couldn't recommend that more highly. Videodrome. Okay, next up, not quite so highbrow, but a good film nonetheless. Shock 'Em Dead. Tracy Lords, A Hot Mama, one of my favourites. This is a bit of a collector's item, actually. It goes for sort of £150 on eBay if you can find a copy, but I managed to pick one up for a lot less than that, so I'm pretty pleased. Best way I can explain this is it's kind of very like something Jack Black would have written. It's about a geeky guy who wants to rock out, and he sells his soul to the devil. You can see the devil on the cover there with his double-headed axe, but the only problem with the deal he makes with the devil is that he has to kill people in return for it. So, you know, he's killing various people at the concerts, and, you know, it's got all that hair metal from the time in it, and it's pretty damn cool. Yeah, very similar ground to Rock and Roll Nightmare and Trick or Treat, sort of horror, heavy metal films. It's almost like a little subgenre of its own. They're always pretty entertaining, unintentionally funny. Very good film. Get it if you can. Next up, we got a new release from 101 Films. Really good up-and-coming label, releasing some really classic genre stuff from the 80s and 90s. They're picking up some really awesome titles, and this Mean Guns is one of them. Ice-T is a leader of a criminal syndicate, takes control of this prison where he puts 100 of his gang's enemies in to fight to the death for a $10 million prize, which is right in the middle of the prison. Really well directed, this one. Christopher Lambert playing a character very similar to his Highlander character, really, but set in a more modern day setting. Really well directed, I thought this was for a film of this type. A very post Tarantino script, lots of wordy dialogue. Not as, you know, nowhere near as good as Tarantino. There's the stuff that Tarantino just so effortlessly writes. Others struggle to imitate, but still a really good attempt. What sets this apart in some ways is the inclusion of a salsa soundtrack by Perez Prado. Ice-T's character is his favourite artist, so while you've got all these action scenes going on and killings, almost like John Woo style, action going on, you've got this weird salsa playing in the background. It's quite a weird experience really, but it kind of sets it apart and gives it its own style. Really good genre film, the kind that they try and make now to look like genre films. I think it was very slept on at the time, and I think it still is. So if you like a little bit of 90s action, can't really go wrong with that one. I'd definitely pick that up. Mean Guns, recommended. Okay, last up today is My Little Lie. I got this in Poundland for £1, believe it or not. Saw this years ago, been wanting to see it again since, because I remember it being quite interesting. Set in an internet reality show where all the competitors have to stay in this really creepy old house in the woods for 6 months to win £1 million prize, but the catch is they all have to make the 6 months. They're sort of getting to the end of their time there, and it's really beginning to go tits up. It all turns out that there's something very, very sinister going on with the people who are running this thing. It's not just a game show, there's a lot more at stake. Kind of touches on similar ground to Hostel in some ways. Don't want to spoil too much for you. One of the interesting things about this one for a horror is it's quite heavily influenced by John Hughes's Breakfast Club. Some big similarities. They're even watching it on the TV at one point. 5 kids, just like in the Breakfast Club. There's a Judd Nelson type, and there's also a girl who looks uncanny like Molly Ringwald. I definitely think the concept they were going for was a horror spin on Breakfast Club. There's a bit of a cameo in here from Bradley Cooper at one point, one for the ladies. I put this one straight in the middle, kind of average but kind of entertaining. Nothing special, nothing that's going to go down as a classic, but one for the found footage fans because it's kind of in that area. My Little Lie, you can get for £1, recommend it. It's this double disc as well. It's got an interesting feature I've never seen on DVD before, where you can actually watch it as if you were in control of all the different CCTV cameras and pick out bits that you want to watch, which is quite an interesting concept. I haven't watched that yet. So that's My Little Lie, my final film review of this week. I hope you enjoyed Paul's Garage Review Part 2. Please leave your comments, let me know what you thought. And subscribe to my channel if you're on YouTube. Have a wicked bank holiday everyone, watch lots of films, and I'll see you next week.